Hey, HRN listeners, mark your calendars for Sunday, October 13th. HRN and the National Young Farmers Coalition are teaming up for a special event at Churchtown Dairy in Hudson, New York. In honor of National Farmers Day, we'll be celebrating with local food, a screening of the documentary Common Ground, and a live panel featuring Lee Penniman of Soulfire Farm, Chris Nickel of Finca Ceremos, and more. The first 50 people to register get a free gift at the door. It's a fundraiser for young farmers and HRN supporting farmer leadership, HRN's education programs, and Farm Bill advocacy. Don't miss out. Head to support.youngfarmers.org/CGFilm to reserve your ticket today.
Hearst Ranch is a proud sponsor of the Heritage Radio Network. Learn more about Hearst Ranch at HearstRanch.com.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
So you don't shun the devil with your rock and roll load. Knows that country music's gonna save your soul. The devil finds his groove in them rhythm and blues that sing. It's gonna get you sun in the air.
Welcome back to The Speakeasy. I'm Damon Boelte.
I'm Sother Teague.
And I'm Greg Benson, and I'm back, guys.
Welcome back.
Did you miss me?
We did.
Where you been, Greg? This time, where you been?
I've been in Mexico. I was down there touring a ranch that grows the agave that I'm using for a project that I'm going to say relaunching in the next few weeks here. So stay tuned. I'll be certain to not shut up about it on this show once it's out there. But got to meet the really, really amazing people that are caring for some truly excellent plants. Saw the Mexican countryside, which is just some of the most beautiful country in the world. But the important thing, guys, is that I saw Metallica while I was there, which fucking ruled. So all in all, once again, 5-star trip to Mexico City would do again.
Cool.
Yeah, that's outstanding. I mean, was the show as dynamic as I want to believe it was, given that these guys are kind of pushing some years at this point?
Oh, they've still got it.
Okay, that's the question I was asking.
It was actually it was nice because just the week before I'd gone to a show at Madison Square Garden with Matt Levy of the Covert Cocktail Club, friend of the pod, and there was a band there that was playing their acclaimed first album, which turned 30 this year from start to finish. And I love it when bands do that. The whole hey, it's the 10th anniversary, it's the 15th, it's whatever. We're going to play this beloved album all the way through. The album was self-titled. It was one of about 7 self-titled albums from this band. I'm not going to tell you which band it is because I'm about to shit on them, but I think you can figure it out. Was it blue or
green?
And they... blue, green, red, white, black. They've Paisley. I don't know. I lost track.
You're talking about Weezer.
I'm talking about Weezer. And they just, you can tell that they were kind of there for a paycheck. Metallica was there for us. They were there for They had the fireworks, the fire itself. No one got lit on fire, but there were a few close calls. It was I saw
them in San Francisco at the Chase Center. They were the first concert at the new Chase Center with Rob Dietrich, the guy who does Black and Metallica's whiskey, and it was an incredible experience. And it was for their S&M 20th anniversary, which is the symphony and Metallica. So it was with the San Francisco Philharmonic Symphony, and it was just freaking mind blowing. So they still got it. Yeah, they probably
amazing. I mean, I saw I saw Metallica in the first iteration of the tour where they had the Snake Pit, and that was in 1992. And I was in the Snake Pit. So I'm glad to know they're still out there crushing it.
The Snake Pit still lives.
Yeah.
I was not in the Snake Pit. I am too old for the Snake Pit. I had a seat that I sat. Actually, no, I stood up the entire time, but I had the option to sit down at it if I wanted to. I was just rocking too hard and didn't.
So I'm glad you got to do that. And I'm sure you went to a lot of amazing restaurants and bars because Mexico City has no shortage of those. And
absolutely not.
And so next time, I know we've been invited, all three of us, down several times by several different producers. So we need to make that trip together and, travel the world together a little bit more now that we can, that we have been able to. And, speaking of traveling the world, we've got a couple of great guests on the show today that are coming from Edinburgh. They're both in Italy right now, but just two amazing powerhouses that are here. And I'm so excited. And Sother was saying this as well before the show. Just something we want to learn more about. A very, very famous female bartender from back in the day. Quite a, we just had Negroni week. Then we had Bees Knees week. And I was just realizing I have a Bees Knees tattoo. It's a friendship
just realizing
tattoo.
That?
Well, I was just thinking about that for Bees Knees week this last week. Me and a couple of my co-brand ambassadors with Fernet Branca had these when we worked for Brooklyn Gin, and we have bees, and theirs say "at you," and mine says "bless you." A bee sneeze, get it? But speaking of friends that I worked with Fernet Branca and Negroni week, one of my favorite classic cocktails happens to be the hanky panky, and that happens to be the creation of the person we're going to be talking about today. Well, with no further ado, let's welcome Kate Wilkes and Kristine Bocchino. Did I get that right? Or is it
Bocchino.
Oh, sorry.
I like the Bocchino, though. Brings me back to summer.
Right. So welcome to the show. And so you're here, and we're going to be talking about the Ada Coleman project. And like I said before, Ada Coleman was the creator of the Hanky Panky. She was the bartender at the Savoy in London. I mean, just some really amazing stuff going on in a time where it was like a male-dominated industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it still
she was such a
kind of is, depending on where you are.
It still is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that you're really showcasing in the changes that are happening before us right now. So why don't you tell us about yourselves and how you get together and how you started the Ada Coleman project?
Absolutely. Kate, why don't you kick it off?
Sure. Well, I guess it's always good to have a bit of context about who we are before, I guess, we talk about what we did, as you said, Damon. So I've been in the industry for a little bit over a decade now. I actually started my career in the Savoy as a cocktail waitress. So the Ada Coleman connection runs very personal to me. But it was that sort of experience that sort of catalysted me into bartending, working in different bars, mainly between the Savoy. I moved to Sweden and spent 4 years there and worked in Stockholm, working for a Michelin star chef at his cocktail bar called Corner Club, and moved back to the UK and headed up the drinks program at the Barclay before I jumped into my own consultancy and working in the brand world. So 3 bars really under my back, but it was an exciting thing to really work at the Savoy. And I think, learning about Ada or Ada, which way you ever want to say it, her story. I know the Brits are like, it's Ada Coleman. The Americans are like, it's Ada Coleman. I don't know. I'm Canadian. I'm somewhere in the middle.
So you put an extra U in her name, right?
Okay, enough now. And her story was so cool. And I think even thinking back to the beginning of my career, not really seeing a few women, not a lot of women, really wanting to sort of get into it all definitely is what for sure led us into the Ada Coleman project. And I'll give a little bit of context about how Kristine and I know each other, and then I'll let Chris talk about her amazing career. But Kristine and I met back in 2018 or 17, Chris. I can never really remember. But we were working on a project together where she was based in LA and she was working with Healthy Hospital LA and I was working with Healthy Hospital UK, and sort of connected online and eventually met in person, and, just really connected as friends, really, and really wanting to do more in the industry to support the industry. And that's what we were doing for Healthy Hospo. But then, we really found the discussion points around, doing more for women and in that space. So that's enough about us a little bit. But Chris, why don't you tell everybody about yourself?
All right. A long career, but I'll keep it quick. I've been in hospitality my entire life on different facets. I've run restaurants and bars all over Los Angeles and a bit in Northern California, in Sonoma County, in the wine country. Worked as a pastry chef for about 6 years, sommelier for 5 years. Owned a restaurant and bar for a few years as well. Most recently, before consulting, I was a beverage director for Four Seasons for 4 years out there, which was a great experience as well, and opened a wine bar for them and then took over the beverage program for the whole hotel. So varied background, and just, excited to get to kind of give back, and the industry gives so much to us. So I'm, looking to kind of make our mark, as they say.
Yeah. The two of you then got together after dealing with Healthy Hospital, which is a great organization that helps people be healthier in our field. And it seems to me that now maybe you're focusing on making the field itself healthier, which is a unique way to maybe frame it. But just before we jump in totally to the Ada Coleman Foundation, can you remind our listeners, I think the three of us are pretty well aware of who Ada Coleman was, but can you remind our listeners who she was and what impact she had to make you name your foundation after her? And then we can spring into what the foundation is all about.
Absolutely. Well, being the first female head bartender back in the 1920s, she was definitely, as we kind of touched on before, a pioneer of sorts. There weren't a lot of women that were in those positions of power and taken as seriously in those positions. And little did we know that it would be like 95, more years before there would be another female head bartender at the Savoy. So, we talk about being a bit before your time. It seems like, she really was somebody to make her mark. And we wanted to put someone as the namesake of the project that really has become kind of an icon and an inspiration to both men and women in the industry. And someone that, is fairly well known, but there are still a lot of people, especially in the smaller markets, that we're introducing her to them for the first time. So it's nice to be able to kind of carry on that legacy by, teaching the new generation what she was all about.
And I think that was, her story, as I said, definitely inspired me as a bartender. And then at the same time, I think, how we got into the project was really, as you said, Sother, was like, wanting to sort of create that space for women and non-binary people. I think there's, we're definitely not the first organization, and we for sure won't be the last, trying to really get under the skin of helping women have a platform in this industry, and non-binary people have a platform in this industry. But, the catalyst of us really starting the Ada Coleman project came from essentially a lot of conversation in the industry. We were definitely, over the last couple of years, Chris and I, we're seeing like a really huge lack of representation of women and non-binary in the drinks industry when it came to educating, guest shifts, they just kept popping up, more and more men. And we're like, wait a second, I'm pretty sure we could have put like 4 women there, or a friend, that knows, there's a few things for sure that it seems missing. So it was a lot of conversation, and we ended up, messaging the organizers of those bar shows or those guest shifts and asking the question, being curious and saying, hey, I don't see a lot of women in the picture. Is there a reason? Or like, how did that sort of come to be? And some people just wanted to invite their friends, and that's okay. I mean, this industry is definitely built on some really great friendships, and that's important. But I think, when you see, I kind of say, we say, if you can't see it, you can't be it. So if we just keep projecting this image of just men are the ones that get the guest shifts, or men are the ones that get to speak, like, it doesn't necessarily create an inclusive space. So I think it's having that representation that really inspired us to say, like, okay, let's build this database. Let's build a dedicated digital space for women and non-binary. Let's put a database on the website of these talented people that are able to do a guest shift, a tasting, a training, a seminar, that are really able to sort of be the solution to the problem that we were seeing, versus just, going on and on about it, I suppose.
Yeah. And I mean, we've come a long way, but there's still, I think everybody can agree, there's a long way to go, especially in the US. I've seen really huge strides made with the educational programs, let's say for Tales of the Cocktail and BCB Berlin. And it's some of the smaller markets and European markets, APAC markets, that are kind of a little bit behind in that representation. So, again, we are doing events all over, but there are certain regions that we're kind of like focusing on, that we're seeing those deficits a little bit more.
Yeah, I also think, having like cocktail competitions like Speed Rack, just like made such an impact, on the female bartending community. And the fact that that was so cool that, from the beginning, they had the guys being barbacks, and like doing all the dirty work. So it was like a really like powerful move, and recently, they came out with the Speed Rack book, Quick Drink, I believe is the name of it, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And so I think it's a really, I wish this would have come out. I wish the Ada Coleman project would have come out like 15 years ago or longer, it's because I've gone on this website a few times and it's cool because like, it's a really, first of all, it's a really beautifully put together website, and it's just the format and like the content. And, there's sections on health and well-being, education, career development. And that's all the stuff that we've been kind of asking for, not just women in the bar world, but just all of us, and
people in general. Yeah. And we hope that everyone uses it. It's not meant to solely be for women, searching for those resources. We would love for everyone, that wants those resources to use it. So that's the goal, and it's growing. Yeah.
I think one of the greatest aspects of the website is the resources page, where you can find women in or around where you are that you can put into these guest shifts or speaking positions or what have you. Because, I have sort of a rule when I'm invited to do things, when I'm invited to be a judge or a speaker or things like that, I ask whoever's inviting me, am I the only, am I the white guy on the stage? Are there other white guys? Or is there anybody else? And if they say, well, it's three of you, and it's you and, some other dude and some other dude, I'm like, well, I'll gladly bow out, and I can point you to maybe some people you might want to talk to instead of me. I'd love to come to the event, but I don't think you need another white guy on stage. So this is a great opportunity for me to, well, thank you. This is a great opportunity for me to like say, well, here's a resource for you. Like go to this website, because maybe you're out in California and I'm here in New York, and I don't know exactly who's right near you, but I always try and make sure that there's a mix on the stage.
I mean, that's the goal. Yeah. With making it searchable database that you can search by area of expertise, you can search by region. You saw the map there, so you can click on a country or click on a city. If you want to search sustainability, if you want to search, tequila, who specializes in tequila, because you want to, have somebody on a panel speaking about agave spirits. We just had someone reach out to us wanting to put together a whiskey panel, and we referred them to Zana Molman, who's at Manhattan in Singapore, who obviously has a great background, running that program with their barrel aging and all of that. So it's fun to actually see it being used. It's going to take some time, as we know. It might take 2 or 3 years to get people to realize it's there, to realize how it can best help them in what they're trying to achieve. But we've got to start somewhere. That's kind of why we started with just over 50 people on the list to start. Or on the database, because we wanted to give those people a moment to shine. And we felt like, we could easily put 1,000 people on this list right off the bat, but a lot of people would get lost. The names that have maybe been around a little bit longer would kind of get, picked out quickly, and they might miss some of the gems, some of the rising stars. So, it is a mix of kind of those rising stars and veterans. Because within, the different sections that we do and networking events, what is, kind of organically happening, and we hope will keep happening, is that mentorships within the people in the database start to form. And that's really, really great to see, because we know that networking is one of the largest barriers to advancement for women in the on-trade, really. And I mean, education, confidence building, things like that. So as we get into maybe a little bit of the events that we're doing and seminars, we'll talk about those benefits and our goals for next year. But yeah, I mean, the database, it's just to start. We're actually adding 100 more people, 100 more names at the end of the year, and diligently working on that. It's not an easy task, and wrangling 100 people to get all their info, their data and all that, but it's a task well worth the the rewards.
Totally.
So
Yeah,
we're just getting started. We've gotten some press and stuff, but it's all about just the impact and the comments that we get from the sessions and the workshops that we do. That's what it's really all about.
I love the map.
So
it's really cool. Like I clicked on Cape Town, South Africa, and Cassandra Eickhoff. She actually came to I was teaching some classes down there when I was with Brooklyn Gin. But I will say this, and this is just it's not a critique. It's just something. I'm from Oklahoma, like the middle of the country. And so when I click on the map, I'm like, I would like to see more dots like in the middle of the country. And I'm sure you've got that working, don't you?
Yeah. That's exactly our focus.
We really need a lot of support there, because it's like LA, San Francisco, New York, Chicago. It's like Miami, it's Dallas, or Austin. So it's really just like the borders of the United States, Portland, Seattle. Things in the middle need to be like filled out. And I think, there's a lot of talent there and people that I know that, are just like killing it. But, they don't get the
send them our way.
I was going to say, we could do that for sure.
Yeah, we've already got actually a couple in Middle America that are slated, one in Ohio. Don't want to give too much away, but, through going to these bar shows and things like that is where we meet a lot of new people. And we actually met this gal who's a bar manager in Ohio, and she was in town with a friend from Amsterdam that works at Flying Dutchman. And so we had met her through Tess. And I mean, just, like Kate says, it's 1 degree of separation. Like everyone knows that somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody.
Yeah.
But it's, we got in touch with her and then she actually went and did a guest shift at Flying Dutchman. Alina, we saw them both again at Tails. They were in the program there. So, I mean, that's in the works.
But,
for sure.
It's building.
Like looking at the map, it's like it's really you've got dots all over the world. So I'm not saying that you're not getting out there. It's just me personally, it's like I want to see people from like Kansas City, or like what I mean? Because I remember there was an article that came out. I remember like it was like the late 2000s, and I talk about this kind of often, but it was an article in Imbibe magazine, or it was an issue of Imbibe magazine, and up to this point, it had always been New York and California. It was always focused, and that's with good reason because it hadn't come inland just then. But I remember opening one issue of Imbibe, and it was like I said, like Kansas City, Omaha, Salt Lake City, and like all these places. I was like Memphis, and I was like. And in some of, there was like one from, I think, Little Rock in Arkansas. And they were like, we don't have, like, it was one of those, it was like a control state situation where they were like, we don't have things like chartreuse, or like different types of Amaro. And they're like, we just kind of have to make this on our own. And I was like, that's so badass. And so, I think there's just a lot of creativity and invention, so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have a big focus on secondary markets for next year. We just kind of needed to get our feet wet this year, get some of the brands kind of, get on the brand's radar. But we, it is common knowledge that some of those smaller markets and secondary markets really don't get a lot of the brand dollars and a lot of educational opportunities.
Trying to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think they're hungry for that education and for that knowledge and to meet new people. And to, not everyone has the opportunity to go to bar shows, within their country or in other countries. So the chance to meet somebody from, Singapore and London in Ohio. I mean, how great is that?
So awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so this brings up an interesting question that I want to ask because in many ways, and I mean this as 100% a compliment. In many ways, this is the anti-Facebook. Like this is the most anti-Zuckerberg initiative I could possibly think of. And again, that is 100% a good thing. But I can't help but think of, that scene from The Social Network where they're building out the Facebook and they talk about, okay, we're building this, but how do we get people to use it? And the database is super impressive. But yeah, exactly. I'd love to hear sort of your strategy about, okay, now how do we get this in front of the right people? So it's not just an impressive thing we've built. It's an impressive thing that people are using.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And
To go on the speakeasy.
the first thing is, well, the number one, the first thing we need to do though is to show people how to use it. So we need to start like using it ourselves and curating those sessions. So, one of the most notable things we got to do this year was go to New York. We hosted a bartender's brunch there. We had ourselves, Megan Dorman and Lauren Paler, join us for a panel discussion around, how does bartending actually act as a springboard for your career and where can you end up? And it was really amazing for me. I think I had like an out of body experience because I'm sat next to like two absolute legends. I've only really ever bartended for maybe 5 years. These are women I've, gotten to know over time. And it was like sitting next to like your idols, I suppose. The four of us really had such a nice conversation, didn't we, Chris? And the sort of feedback from the bartenders brunch was, for the first time, I feel like I can see where my career is going to end up. And I tried not to cry. I mean, I am the emotional one. But it was just so cool to get that feedback, to know like, okay, like box check. Yes, we're in New York. Yes, they get a lot of attention, but somehow we've managed to create impact in this one conversation. And so it's really moments like that say like, this is how you use the database. You bring, expert speakers into market. You let them share their stories, let them share their skill set. And then that catalyst sort of continues. And of course we had a guest shift after, because why not? How else could we appease the brands and also, put nice cocktails in people's hands. Right. I'm privy to a guest shift at any time I'm invited. I would love to make cocktails. It's that kind of tool. And we have a big piece of work coming up very soon at Athens Bar Show in November, where we'll be showing exactly the same thing. This time we'll be focusing on women's skill set and how they have worked in within the industry to really showcase those things. So I think it's one, showing people how to use it, but two, it's things like this. It's going to bar shows. It's the more that we can get eyes on the fact that this exists, it is helpful. It's here to help you, and also be open to feedback. Like it's all good and well that Kristine and I put this together. That's why we have a board of advisors, Lauren Moat, Mel Harvey, Sandra Lawrence, and John Gakuru, that to really help us like be those sounding boards of ideas when we're like thinking and dreaming in the corner, like, should we do this? And, go to them and we get some really great feedback, especially when it comes to like pitching to the world of brands. Yes, that's what I do in my consultancy, and I have a very good hand on that. But, this is a much bigger like piece of meat, if you will, to chew on. So, thank you for so much for having us here, because this will definitely help get some eyes on the database, that's for sure.
It's funny when you were talking about the New York session, the other thing that stood out to me is not only did the attendees really get something out of it, but LP mentioned, LP had her daughter on her lap the entire panel discussion. And she said that was the first time that she's ever been she felt comfortable asking. We said absolutely yes, because she was coming from DC and she was going to travel right after that. She's like, can I bring my daughter? Absolutely yes. She sat on her lap the entire session, was an absolute angel. And she told us that was the first and only time that she had ever done that, and that she herself felt so welcomed and so seen and appreciated for allowing that to happen. So, that's another thing we're kind of seeing pop up on the bar show seminars and discussions, is parenthood within the industry and juggling all of that. But, we got to kind of see that firsthand, and, we were really appreciative that, she felt comfortable with us.
Totally.
I'm getting emotional now.
Same as the crier in our
so
group.
Hard.
Yeah.
They're perfect. There's always one. It's so hard. Like we have to remember.
It would be me.
There's people we're people first, right? Before our jobs, before the things, like we're people first. We have to be, this industry is built on the fact that like we are here to take care. That is what it means to be in hospitality, to take care of those around us. And I think like one of the most important missions for us with the Ada Coleman project is to, put that word care into the industry and really like think deeply on how we, how we build out these narratives and how that can react to someone's personal feeling, right? So having LP have her daughter sitting on a panel talking, that care, that element, really thinking quite deeply, like that makes her feel seen and valued. And actually, what could that catalyst do then to the people watching? How could that make them make them feel like they can also, do those things too? It's that whole see it, be it thing that's so valuable.
Right. Yeah, I think that's wildly important. I do a lot of, pop-ups and takeovers and things like that. And we're planning a bunch more coming up in the next couple of months. And I would stress to you, of course, it's great to be here in New York, but when we take my bar on the road, we find the most crowd, the most excitement, the most enthusiasm when we go to smaller markets. Because as you said before, and Damon echoed as well, those markets don't get the attention. So when you bring it to them, they come. I would highly, if I were to give a recommendation, I would say do some small market areas, go to some spots that seem like they're not going to get a lot of a crowd, but the crowd shows up.
That's our big focus for next year.
Yeah. So how long has the Ada Coleman project been around? When did you found?
We launched the website actually the beginning of last June. Was it May or June?
So just a few months.
Yeah, it's not even a year old.
Yeah, incredible. So it's already doing pretty incredibly, and I can already see that I'm going to use it as a resource, and I'll recommend it to other people as well, especially as it loads up.
Thank you so much.
Of course, and you said that you're going to load a lot into it starting kind of in the new year. But I would ask, how do you vet or choose, or is there some sort of application process? How does someone become, a featured personality or what have you on this site?
So glad you asked that. Yeah. There's a couple different ways. Kate, I'll let you start there.
Sure. So we have directly below the database, you can scroll right down to the end and you'll see a listy criteria. So this is women and non-binary people who are featured on the database. They have to kind of specialize in one or more, have a deep passion for one of the following areas listed, and a minimum of 5 years of experience in the drinks industry. Sorry, it's been a long day. So leadership and innovation, hospitality industry impact, business success, entrepreneurship, mentorship and advocacy, innovation and creativity, sustainability and social responsibility. Maybe they're just really hot shit and they got some recognition and awards, where maybe they're really great on influence, on guest experience. Maybe they're that front of house star. We're sort of dabbling into that idea as well. And maybe they've just been in the industry for a really, really long time. They've got a really long longevity and legacy. So we didn't want to be like uber specific and start, you must work in the 50 best bar. You must have worked, and done this and that. We wanted to kind of be a bit broad and also flexible. I think, as we said, we picked the first 57 women and non-binary people through our network, but also at the same time working with our board of advisors. So we will go back now to the first 57 and we will ask them to help us nominate the next 57 or 100, if you will, and work with our advisors as well. I think, us getting out there and paying attention. I mean, I spend way too much time on Instagram looking through people's social media and profiles and
creeping around, you mean?
Hello, who are you? But it's,
but that's how we found, a few of the ones that are on there now is through friends of friends of friends. We had a friend doing an event in Dubai, and then we saw a couple of people that were on that person's radar, and we said, hey, what's going on with this person? Their immediate reaction, this was a man, a friend of ours, a close friend who travels constantly, and we feel confident that they know quality and know people. And he said, hey, these two girls need to be on your radar. They're killers behind the bar. They kick ass. They're winning competitions. They're leading the region in sustainable bar practices, things like that. So we reach out to other colleagues within the industry. So it's multiple ways, but absolutely, if somebody wants to reach out to us, they can email through the website, come to our events, meet us in person, things like that. Come to the educational seminars. We did Edinburgh Bar Show, we did Roma Bar Show, we did Baltic Bar Show. So, we're trying to get out there as much as we can to meet people in person, because we want those rising stars, people that are kind of maybe making a name for themselves within their region, but don't have a way to kind of get that global platform. We want to help them kind of make that next step.
I love it. And I really love that you've got some way for people to kind of like people like me who I'm not a woman or non-binary. I'm not going to be in the thing, but I could certainly probably nominate or point you towards some people because I'm sure you also understand that. Yeah, I'm sure you also understand that there are statistics out there that show that, you know, things we probably all already knew intuitively. Men are brave and crazy, right? So we'll apply for things that we may not be qualified for, while women, on the other hand, statistically won't apply for things that they're, 90% qualified for because they don't think they're 100% qualified. So I think that a lot of your inductees to this program are probably going to be heavily reliant on sort of like nominations from maybe people like me or whoever who spot things.
Except for Chalky Tom.
Put you forward.
Because she's a badass and she knows it.
There's no hiding that. Yeah, she's awesome. She's going to hopefully be with us next month doing something. So we're super excited about that.
Awesome.
So there's something that stood out to me that you said earlier, just really quickly is, and just a moment ago as well, how you ask who else is on a panel or who you ask who else is involved in events. That's a conversation that I have, and I want to have a lot more with people, is that, women can't do this alone.
No.
We need more men to speak up, to be supportive and things like that. And if you are asked to do events, it's okay to say, hey, who else is involved? And, if they're going to not bring you because you say, you want some diversity on this panel or on this thing, then there's always another one. But it's really, really helpful. And I think, brands are the ones that hold the purse strings. So if a bar comes to them and says, hey, I want to bring in 8 guest bartenders, can you pay for it? The brand can absolutely say, sure, but I'd like to see some diversity. This is one of our big goals this coming year, things like that. Everybody can do their part. And little by little, hopefully not little by little, bigger and bigger, but we should actually talk about our logo coming to that as things change.
Kristine, I fully agree with you. And I think that, this isn't a thing that I was aware of or I'm not trying to put myself in this position of like being super enlightened. It took me a while to come to that conclusion because, when I'm a younger bartender and I get offered a thing, I'm like, I'm so excited. Wow, I got asked.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, right. But then as I get a little older, I'm like, wait a minute, is it just going to be me and the same 3 dudes on stage again? That's boring to me. Yeah. Right. That doesn't look, that's not a good look to me. Why would I want to be involved in a thing that I don't think it's happened over years.
Once a week.
But that's going to be boring to me to go to, event after event and see the same faces or the same looking faces, So I came to this conclusion a few years ago where I say like, who else is involved? Like, I'm happy to do it. And then I back it up by saying, I can maybe suggest some people you might want to have involved instead of me. I'd still love to come. If you can maybe afford to have me just be in the room, I'm happy to be in the room, working the room. But I don't think maybe I need to be involved in this one if it's just everybody that looks like me, And it's hard. It's hard for
so
somebody.
Many people notice things, but they don't do anything about it. They don't act on it. We all see a lot of the same faces over and over again. But acting on it is a whole other thing.
I think it's
amazing.
It's kind of hard to say something about it. Sother, I was going to say, just, some of these people who you see at every single event, it's like, that's actually their job these days, and I don't want to name any names, but, they've kind of like turned that into their career from the industry, which is actually a really exciting thing too. So you can't really
absolutely.
I mean, but yeah, it tends to be a bunch of dudes. So.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to point out too. It's often hard to say no to these things because you're just excited to be invited, especially when you're young. It's also quite often hard to say no to a paycheck. And I get
totally.
I get that I'm in a position of privilege where I can do that.
Or a free trip to another country or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I know.
Right.
Who wants to turn that down? But bring somebody with you. A lot of the bar owners, what I'm seeing more and more often, thankfully, is that when bar owners, bar managers are getting invited, they'll bring a junior member of the team with them, which is incredible because that person, at least at this point in their career, is probably not going to get asked on their own. So as much as they can do that, that's at least doing their part. So they're still getting the trip, but they're bringing somebody. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think this brings me to, sorry, go ahead, Kate.
No, jump in. Go ahead, Greg.
Classic Canadian.
Well, I have a larger question that I've been trying to find a way for the last 45 minutes to ask in a way that isn't, one, hyper depressing, and two, is going to get me canceled. So here goes.
Buckle in, everybody. Here goes Greg.
But I want to know sort of what your relationship to progress is, because that's kind of what we're talking about now, right? And I think that those of us that are on the right side of history have had, particularly in the last 10 years, a bad track record modulating our expectations. You know, I kind of think of Me Too, and there was this sense, I think, among a lot of people of like, this is going to end misogyny. And then, you know, you had all the BLM protests in 2020 that were like, this is going to end racism. And I think now that we're on the other side of the pandemic and that era, and hopefully we're on the other side of that era for good, I think we're all kind of realizing that we still got to wake up every day and kind of roll that boulder up the hill. So given that this project is a little bit more recent, I was wondering if you'd sort of modulated your approach to progress based on that, and also just how, on a personal level, it feels to kind of not have that sort of idealism of like, this is the solution, instead being like, this is going to be going uphill every single day. How does that work for you?
Stone.
Yeah.
I think
managing our expectations is important, as well as managing everyone else's expectations. So Kate, go ahead.
I think I mean, and that's totally, Chris, you're spot on. Look, I mean, it took us actually like probably 2 years to arrive at this point, mainly because, you know, you have to get out of your own way. You think you're going to put something out into the universe, and suddenly like you're going to get canceled. You know, we're like, oh, we weren't inclusive enough. We didn't think enough. We didn't find that person in the middle of Ohio. Now we suck. You know what I mean? Like it was all of those things definitely like got in our own way. And I think like progression is, you know, not a straight line, like, you know, running towards something. It's never going to be, you know, you're going to go up and down, I guess, when you're trying to do something and do it the right way. And be very mindful, you know, as we sort of also dot into the fact that we are now including like non-binary people as well on the website too. And that's you know, Chris and I are not non-binary. So that's a whole thing that we get to navigate and understand as well. And, you know, so that definitely takes unlearning too, and learning again. And I think that is, you know, to be sort of open and honest in the sense that like, okay, here's where we're starting. And here's where we want to go, which is more women and non-binary people teaching, educating, and being present in the industry, you know, inspiring this generation and beyond in a nutshell. And I think actually that sort of segues perfectly into like our logo and our vision that way. Chris, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And just a little bit on that, on expectations and all that, you know, there's a lot of, you know, things that could and need to be changed, you know, equal pay for equal work and all of that stuff. And we thought, you know what, we need to focus on a couple of really, really specific things, because we could get really overwhelmed if we try to cover, you know, 10 different topics. And we know that no one organization is going to change the world. You know, it's going to take 20, 30 organizations, whatever it is. So if we can do our part, and a lot of people have asked us, you know, how can you measure success? And that's a thing that we think of constantly. And that could has come back to the logo as well. But, you know, if we the more specific we get in our goals, the more easily we'll be able to measure that. So for example, if we want to see more women and non-binary people speaking at bar shows and educating, we can look year after year and we can talk with each bar show organization and say, hey, are women just not applying? Are they not sending in submissions? Are they not, you know, what do you want to be seeing? But are they seeing more women speaking? You know, and hopefully we can be a part of that by using our own database. We know that there's, you know, 70% of women in hospitality globally, but maybe only 20% are in upper management. So data is something that we really, really, really lack in our industry. But, you know, constantly, you know, we're trying to think of ways to capture more data, and we can see it grow in that way. So I think being able to measure the success, and again, it may be 2 years before we see, a measurable success because it doesn't happen overnight. And it's just about us not getting discouraged and pushing forward. And again, one or two people at an educational seminar saying, look, you really made my day. This is the first one of these sessions I've gone to where I could see myself on the stage. That makes it all worth it. And that gives you that energy to push forward to the next event. So, because let's face it, we're not, paying our bills off of doing this stuff. Like, this is in addition to our consulting, jobs. As you guys know how that works, we all have multiple hats that we wear.
It's all hospitality. And I love the kind of like agency side of what you're kind of describing in a way. It's like you're placing these speakers and guest bartenders with the right events, or just getting them out there, like as you're kind of like their agents, like you're like, hey.
Yeah. A lot of people have mentioned that, like, you should move in that direction. It's awesome. It may organically happen that way. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think, touching back to that, it is, as Chris said, like, how do we measure that progress? And I think we're still trying to set those parameters. Otherwise, if we had almost wanted to write that down too, we would still be at ground zero, at day dot, because it would have taken us more time to think about that, where it's just like, no, let's just get this out there. So the logo is a great way to sort of think about that. It starts as an almost empty glass. And as we begin to see
panky, by the way,
a hanky panky. And as we begin to see that change and more representation grow over time, the glass will begin to fill and hopefully one day overflow. So, that was quite a beautiful, touching thing that we kind of discussed and came up with one of our board of advisors, Mel Harvey, who's got 25 plus years in marketing and advertising. And, I think that right there is such a statement to say, we want the logo and we want the glass, we want the hanky panky to overflow. First of all, wash line police here. Hello, do we? But actually we do. For the first time ever, I want the wash line to be, there is none.
I love that.
Yeah. So it'll be a way that people, without even knowing what we're doing, as they see that change, that's kind of something that we want to get out there as well, is that anytime you'll see a logo, it'll evolve on our website, all of our collateral at events, all of our seminars. If you see that eventually 25%, 50%, 75%, then you'll know that we are seeing some measurable change. So it's kind of a fun way to yeah.
I come from a background of graphic design, so in marketing. So I saw that immediately and I was like, yeah, that's great. I read it.
Yeah.
I got the message.
Right. Oh, good.
We had a local designer in Edinburgh, Amy Jacobs, do it. And she's an ex-bartender. So it was really cool to kind of connect with someone who understands the industry to get us that drawing together.
There's actually something interesting with that too, because there's been some, and not to speak on other kind of events in organizations, but it does kind of fit in with what you're doing. And you were saying that no one person can do it alone, right? But
no,
there's been several. I attended a few of these where it's all industry people, and it's just like a talent show. And, it's like comedy, music, poetry, dance, all these things. These people, the people that you've known.
Coffee on the glass.
The people that you've known the entire time. And, in like their photography and paintings and graphic design, for instance, to
creative
to go
types,
to these events
creative types,
and see all the talent that people we work with behind the bar, that we had no idea, that they had that. So it's great. I love that you reached into the community, the industry, to get that design work done. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to see more of those talent shows, I think. For sure. It's really fun.
That's a great activation idea. I'm stealing it. Thank you.
Yeah, do it.
It's what we do here on the Speakeasy, free ideas. I want to ask one last, and I promise this is a fun question. I've asked a lot of tough questions. I have a fun question. And it's actually about the hanky panky, because bringing it full circle, when I was in Mexico City, I went to hanky panky and I had a wonderful time. And they have that neon that just has the name there. And I am so happy that I have people who know Ada Coleman so well who might be able to answer this question, because I was wondering, how naughty was that name back in the day? Because right now it seems kind of charming, but would like people clutch their pearls when they heard that name? Would that be like, oh my Lord, you can't say that on the radio? Like how obscene was the hanky panky?
I think it really meant the same thing back then. Did it? Kate knows a little bit more.
It didn't. Hanky panky was kind of like the same way you would say something was like the bee's knees. It was like a positive thing. This is all from David Wondridge, by the way. So like actually call him. But we really like he is the historian. But
he's speaking
it was
in
to kind
right
of
now.
Understand. Perfect. Like he was the historian. So it was something about like a positive way, but now, I think the hanky panky sort of name and that feeling sort of became naughty over time as things changed. So, at the time it was like totally normal. The story goes that it was made for a politician or a famous person. There was no name to the drink. The gentleman took a sip and he said, by Jove, that's a real hanky panky. And the name sort of stuck. So I think, it's one of those things that over time became naughty. I'm sure there's probably other references that.
And luckily enough, it's tame enough that it's not going to get canceled. It's not like a horrible.
Right.
There could be a lot of other cocktail names, and are a lot of other cocktail names that we don't necessarily want associated with the organization supporting women. This one, I mean, it's fun. It's fun and pretty
Fun and flirty.
Exactly.
So I got to say, it's so. I don't know. To me, the hanky panky is like one of those things. I mentioned at the top of the show the Negroni, but the hanky panky, and I'm a huge Fernet fan. I worked with them. I have a Fernet tattoo. It's to me, it's such a sophisticated cocktail, and it's elegant, but it's strong. So to me, it also kind of embodies everything about the Ada Coleman. The organization that you've put together and the people that are in it. So I just like it. There's a clear through line that is very understandable and recognizable and just
amazing.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So congratulations on that. It's so cool.
Thank you so much.
And it's been awesome having you on the show today. I mean, thanks for tuning in from, you're both in Italy right now, but I know, Kate, you usually live in Edinburgh. Another one of my favorite cities. It's like Hogwarts.
Best city ever.
This has been awesome. Can you tell our listeners where to find like obviously the Ada Coleman Project is the website, the adacolemanproject.com. What about social media?
Yeah, you can reach out to us as at the Ada Coleman Project, or my Instagram handle is at Kaitlin Wilkes-Back.
Cool.
And mine is Cal Fresco.
She's Italian.
Like alfresco dining, but with the same Cal Fresco. Yeah, it's actually the name of a food truck I used to own. It was our food truck and catering company, Cal Fresco. Yeah, that's awesome. And it just stuck.
Damon loves.
We'd love to hear from everyone.
Great. Wow. Yeah.
Love that branding, man.
Hearst Ranch is a proud sponsor of the Heritage Radio Network. The Hearst family has been raising cattle on the rich, sustainable native grasslands of California's Central Coast for over 150 years. Piedra Blanca Rancho in San Simeon is the original Hearst Ranch, founded by George Hearst in 1865. George's son was the famous publisher William Randolph Hearst. In addition to being known for building the iconic Hearst Castle, William was, like his father before him, an avid rancher. In his words, "I would rather spend a month at the ranch than any place in the world." Thanks to one of the largest land conservation easements in California history, a joint effort with the California Rangeland Trust, the American Land Conservancy, and the state of California, the working landscape at Hearst Ranch will be preserved forever. Learn more about Hearst Ranch at HearstRanch.com.
Well, hey, that's going to do it for us this week on The Speakeasy. Thank you so much to both of you for coming on and talking to us about this. This was a great episode. I learned a lot, and just thank you for the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. And meanwhile, if you out there listening can't get enough of me, Damon, and Sother, if you want more of us in your life, you can sign up and become a regular on our Patreon page. Regulars here at the Speakeasy get access to sponsor-free listening, video podcasts, cocktail recipes from our guests, and bonus episodes, one of which I'm actually recording while I'm here in DC. So that's going to be coming soon. So stay tuned. Cool. Meanwhile, our regulars who buy us a bottle every week also get a free monthly cocktail kit from Shaker and Spoon. Yeah. Speaking of which, Sother, we have something cool from them launching today, right?
Ooh, do we? What is it?
It's the Mezcal Halloween box, dude.
Oh yeah.
I'm teeing you up over here with softballs. We got our spooky box coming out today.
That's right, the Mezcal Halloween box. Both of us are involved in that box, I believe. Yeah, I made a stirred drink using this new technique that's out there, stirring with uncooked rice to create a more sort of silky texture on the cocktail. Gives it sort of spooky, swampy hue as well. So matching up with the Halloween theme, Mezcal Halloween.
Cal Fresco.
I was got one out there. Exactly. Nice. I know. Good branding here and a great logo talked about here on the Speakeasy. We love, Damon, I know you love interior or like design in general. So that's what we're all about. I'm excited about the Mezcal Halloween box. Sother, I believe, is also excited about that. He's kind of hard to read sometimes.
I am excited. We're also launching something else with Shaker and Spoon soon, but it hasn't dropped yet. And I thought, oh my gosh, did I miss the note? Can't talk about that yet. But something wicked this way comes.
Okay, that's true. You're right. Okay, maybe next week.
Next week.
But meanwhile, if you want to see me live and in person, After Dark Confessions, which is my weird little side project where I dress up like a priest and read the naughty things that strangers have done out loud to a packed bar, is a week away. We're going to be doing that at Someday Bar in Brooklyn on Indigenous Peoples Day or Columbus Day if you're one of those. But whichever way you slice it, it's October 14th. I'll see you there. And as always, be sure to check out heritageradionetwork.org for many other great programs just like this one. And come back next week because our guest is going to be Megan Rickerson, who owns Someday Bar. And she's going to be talking about her pop-up Black Lagoon that she's hosting for spooky season. So tune in for that. I know. We're getting full into it here. It's pumpkin spice season, baby. But for now, until next time, cheers, everybody.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
So you don't charm the devil with your
The Speakeasy is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food and drink radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.